In other words, he's saying, man, you've got a responsibility in your home. You
Yes.
first have got to learn how to love. You first have got to be able to rear your children. You are to rear them up in the fear and admonition of the Lord. This is our God-given responsibility.
It is.
And when we do it right, it affects everyone in such a way. Yeah,
Yes.
they might get upset. Yeah, they might get angry,
It's
but they
part of it.
will love and respect and honor, even if you don't get nothing but a tie on Father's Day. You're doing something good,
Pair of
bro.
socks.
Have you ever felt frustrated, lost, or confused about relationships, your career, or many of life's perplexing decisions, and you thought to yourself,
Man,
man, I
I
need
need
help?
help.
Well, you come to the right place.
Right
My name is
place.
Domingo, minister of the Green Bank Church of Christ,
Norm Newton, minister of the New Haven Church of Christ.
and we're here today talking about the importance of a man.
Yes.
Yeah, the importance of a man.
Give it up for all the men out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bravado.
Yes, sir. We've done too long. That I know both of us been talking about the fact that many times the Father's Day's coming around. Sometimes we're preaching messages against the men that are sitting in the audience and saying, "Hey, you step on up, bro."
I ain't seen you since last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, brother.
How things go for you guys on Sunday, brother?
No, we had a great day, man. Actually, a great crowd. Of course, it wasn't Mother's Day crowd.
Yeah.
But
Not like
fathers got
Mother's
some
Day.
love on that day. And prior to our ladies at the church, they had a little cookout for the men, and we did some horseshoes and volleyball and some other things to develop camaraderie. And we did something. I set my mind that this year, it's always trying to challenge the men. Hey, we need to be more faithful, we need to be better fathers, better husbands, a whole nine. But I said, this year we wanted to intentionally focus on lifting men up.
Celebrating them.
We're living in a culture that, states that men are irrelevant, they're not needed. But, I beg to differ. Statistics differ from that same tone. I made the statement on Sunday, which was pretty provocative to some. And I indicated that, a woman is not woman enough to be a man, and a man is not man enough to be a woman. God made us distinctly different. Our roles and our functions are different. I know society is trying to blur lines and gender neutral stuff and all these kinds of things. But having a man in the home makes a difference.
A profound difference. Since you threw out just statistics, just one statistic I want to throw out there is that I shared this congregation on Sunday also, that if a child comes to the Lord, that child's influence over the family, let's say it's a home that's not a non-believing home. If a child comes to a home, he or she is able to influence the parents and everyone else in the household to come to the Lord in about 3% of the cases. If a mother comes to the Lord in a non-believing home, then she's able to influence the home and everyone in the home to come to the Lord in 17% of the cases. But if the man comes, the father comes,
talks
93% of the times, everyone else in the household is changed.
90%?
If that doesn't tell us the importance that men make in the household, in the Christian home, then I don't know what other statistic we need.
Yeah. Powerful.
You were sharing something about something that happened to you guys on Sunday. Can you tell us about that a little bit, bro?
Yeah, I gave some insight on that, man. And we just thinking about what's been going on, just culturally with all these shootings, these mass shootings. Buffalo, New York, I think the young man was about 18 years old. Uvalde, Texas, 18 years old. We have a lot of young men that are operating without direction.
Yeah.
And, no accountability. Yeah. And we had a situation even in services on Sunday, on our grounds. There was a group of 5 young boys about the age of 13, 14 years old to try to break into a car. Fortunately, we have security, but it just goes to show, while we're inside trying to worship and things of that nature, evil is always abounding, but you have a group of young men that are directionless. That's not really taught to look out for your fellow man, work hard so that you can attain what you need. But again, when men have abdicated their responsibility, it's a burden on the family, it's a burden on the culture and society, and everybody has to pay for it. So, man, we have to step up, do a better job, but we need empowerment and encouragement.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and mentorship is key too.
Oh yeah,
Someone
for sure.
taking a man taking a young man under his wings. Like you were saying, as far as no one can teach you how to be a man more than
Then
another man,
there you go.
and that is so important. And on Sunday, I dealt with kind of the influence really. I looked at the example of a godly man in Joshua, but one of the themes I was really hitting on is the influence that a godly man makes,
Yeah.
not just in his home, yes, especially in his home first,
Hmm.
in the community, in every sector of life, and then the messages that will continue to be played, time and time again, even after that man is gone, whether good or bad.
Sure.
You know, unfortunately, Sunday was a challenging day for me because it was not only Father's Day, which reminded me of my father, who passed away almost 2 years ago now. Next month it'll be 2 years.
Mm.
But not only that, but it was also his birthday, and so he
Ah,
was constantly
it's a
on
tough
my
one.
mind
Yeah.
on Sunday, which made it a little more challenging. But it reminds me of my story. My father and I, when he passed, we were great friends, but it wasn't always the case.
Hmm.
um, there was a lot of resentment because my father and my mother divorced, and my father had other children and other families, and
Sure.
I felt neglected as a result of that, and it caused me to kind of, you know, resent him
Sure.
totally up
Sure.
until a certain point. There are many times that me as a grown man would still hurt and feel the pain, like as if I was a child still,
Yes, sir.
because
Yeah.
of all of the stuff that we went through in the past. So probably one of my greatest regrets after the passing of my father was the fact that we can't continue to build upon
Yeah.
our relationship and kind of still fix some things from the past, because I know not only myself but my sister and my other brothers, there's still a lot that we needed to do to say to dad and to be able to hear from dad, to be able to help us.
Yes.
But now we just don't have that opportunity. However, I am a father, and what I've tried to do is take the good and the bad. Take the good, push it forward. Take the bad, learn the
Yeah.
lessons from it, and choose not to try to repeat it myself.
Amen. Definitely can identify with that, man. As we both talked about, our father wounds, coming up, my dad in and out of my life. I mean, be years that I would go without seeing him or hearing from him. Fortunately, his brothers always kind of looked out for me and would reach out. And my dad actually has a better relationship. Me and my dad have a better relationship than we had before, but
Mhm.
he's been there for my kids probably to a greater degree than he was there for me.
Mhm.
And that goes back to some father wounds that he had, not even really knowing his father and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But, I've forgiven him, been able to move past one of the things we talked about probably in a previous video. What I'm grateful for, that even though we have areas of deficiency in our life, God always provides a surrogate.
Mhm.
And I'm
Mhm.
grateful for the church. I'm a product of the church, looking out for the church. My father figure was Brother Ricky Cook, and preacher of the gospel, and took me, mentored me, was at my game, supported me in all those difficult points,
Yeah.
which was truly a blessing. And my mother's brothers, my uncles, my Uncle Jim and
Man.
Uncle Quack and Darren, all of them, with a collaborative effort.
Mhm.
I had men in my life that, if something went down, I know they had me.
Yeah.
And that's missing in so many homes,
Yeah.
but even though the Lord provides surrogates,
Mhm.
there are still times I wanted to hear it from my daddy. There are
Come
still
on.
times I look up in the
Yeah.
stadium, we playing out of town or close to where he lived. Is he going to show up today?
Yeah.
And there was a lost moment.
Yeah.
But rather than, crying over what's past, trying to look forward to see what we can build on for what we have left. And it's difficult.
Mhm.
Being grateful, I'm the man I am today because of those losses and hurts that I felt because of his absence. I know it pushed me to be a greater father based on my
Amen.
involvement and in my kids' life. It doesn't matter where they go. I'm going to be there. I'm going to
Yes,
find
sir.
a way
Yes,
to
sir.
be there.
Amen.
And that it's been a blessing and a difficulty or curse, as some may call it, on some fronts, but it's work that needs to be done. So if you're an older man and you say, hey, my kids don't need me, or it's been too much time has passed, let me tell you something, reach out to them, keep pursuing them,
Right.
there's always opportunity. There's a little boy, a little girl inside of all of us.
Yes, sir. Come on now. Come on.
That still longs for parental support, parental
Yes.
affirmation, and you reaching out would truly make a difference. And I'll say to those younger individuals who have a distant relationship with their parents, always keep the lines of communication open if you can. And I know depending on the nature of what has happened or transpired over time, that may not be warranted. But as individuals get older, they begin to see things differently, and they may reach out. So when it's time for them to reach out, try to do the best you can to keep your heart and mind open.
That's good advice, brother.
You put it in reverse and say, hey, man, you lived your early life in frivolity, and then now that you're settled, you want to try to restore things and make things better. If you wanted the opportunity to make things right, you're sure they would probably want the same thing. So reciprocity, is key.
Well, I think for myself, my father, what helped us to start rebuilding our relationship was really an opportunity to really sit down and talk. And a lot of times, you threw that word forgiveness out there. That's so needed. We need to learn how to forgive our parents.
Yes.
They're not Superman and Superwomen. They're carrying their own scars and their own, trauma and all of that with them. They've had they have their own wounds and things that they're carrying as well. I got a chance to get a little perspective from my own father. He was 17, 18 years old when he had, me.
Right.
And I started thinking about that. What was I doing at 18, 17, 18 years
Lord
old?
have mercy. Yeah.
And someone saying, hey, here's a child, and matter of fact, by that time, there was two of us. So my brother, when he had me, he was around 18, 17, 18. And when he had my brother, we're a year apart. So within 18 years old, he has two children that he has to try to maintain. And his parents pretty much forced him to get married to my mother. And so at that early age, because my grandfather was a preacher, Pentecostal preacher. And they didn't want shame to be brought on the church and all this kind of stuff. So
got to make it right.
Here's a shotgun wedding. All getting married. But he said he wasn't prepared. He didn't know what it meant to be a father and all of that. And unfortunately, he wasn't really even to be a husband. And it just started spiraling downward from there. And my dad was so gifted in so many different areas.
Talented dude, man.
Just incredible. But there were some key areas where he was just really loose, and it started affecting his life and all of our lives as a result of it. But I got a chance to sit down and talk with him. And he got a chance to really tell me without me being judgmental about what he was going through and all that. And I had to make a decision to forgive him.
Yes, sir.
To forgive him. And then that was the foundation by which our relationship started to rebuild. And so when he passed, it was a very hard. I mean, it still is hard. But probably as I stated earlier, one of the hardest things is the fact that we don't have that opportunity to keep building on what we started. So,
and with people who are struggling with their parents, are potentially fathers that break their promises or don't keep their promises. And what has helped me over the years to be able to maintain a relationship with my dad, I just have low expectations. So lower your expectations. And then when they come through, it's a plus or a bonus. And my kids just adore their grandfather, and he's taken them places and done things with them. It's just not as often as they would like or as I would like, but they treasure those moments. And, many times without proper guidance, we don't know what to do. When we think about our men's class, we talk about uh, all the whole gambit, but dealing with family and structure and how to operate in a home. Decades ago, you were a good man if all you did was provide financially. You made financial provision. That's a good man. You didn't have to do anything else. You work a job or two, keeping a roof over their head, keeping the kids clothed. That's a good man. But when you begin to look at the biblical framework,
yes,
a godly man has to provide financial provision, spiritual insight, right? And leadership, emotional support,
yes,
and
sir.
physical protection.
All
So
right.
you can't physically protect the home if you're not there, right?
Mhm.
You can't be emotionally supportive, if you're always on your own particular pursuits. So providing spiritual leadership. In order to do that, I've got to come to know God's word and have my own relationship with him. And when you think about, man, when you're talking about that godly structure, it's so much more than just working a job, keeping a roof over and clothes on their back. And with that, me and you talk about this thing, it's a balancing act. It's a struggle. Look, when you know what to do, right? That we need those same supports. And, brother, if you are out there trying to do it and you feel out of balance, just know you are not alone.
Yes, that's the
Continue to push
norm.
forward.
That's the
Continue to
norm,
do the
Norm.
right thing. There's support for you, right?
Yes.
We all need help, man. We need help. This is
Yes.
what our show is all about. But we still need positive support to continue to do the right things, even though it may be difficult. So,
I was thinking about those young men that were in that parking lot,
yeah,
and I just wonder, where are the men in their homes? And lots of times we notice that a lot of children that find themselves in these similar situations, there's no one home. The father's not there, dad's not there.
that's right.
And so what they do is they find an outlet. They find, a support group.
Sure.
Sometimes it's not a healthy support group, but it's a support group. They're going to love me. We're going to provide for one another. We're going to help one another. We're going to cheer one another on. We're going to celebrate one another. All those things that are so needed with, that dad could give, or that a
Sure.
father figure could give, or a mentor could give. They're seeking it somewhere else because it's not accessible to them in their home.
That's right.
And so that's why we need to celebrate men and challenge men to see the importance, your importance. Jesus talks about you can't break in and take over a house unless you first come in and bind the strong
Find a
man.
strong man.
Yeah. And I think Satan has been doing that.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
He's been men are, as you said, are advocating their responsibility. When God came and he talked to Adam, and he gave Adam all the structure, everything needed to be done and all that. And even when they sinned, he didn't come back looking for Eve. Hey, Eve, where you at? What you doing? No,
Adam, where are you?
Huh? Where are you?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That the leadership there, it starts and ends with the man.
Yes.
And when you look in Ephesians 5, Ephesians 6, Ephesians 5, husbands, love your wives. He first starts talking to the man. Love your wife now, and then in chapter 6, what fathers don't provoke your children to anger. Don't exasperate them, things like that. In other words, he's saying, man, you've got a responsibility in your home. You first have got to learn how to love. You first have got to be able to rear your children. You are to rear them up in the fear and admonition of the Lord. This is our God-given responsibility. And when we do it right, it affects everyone in such a way. They might get upset. They might get angry, but they will love and respect and honor, even if you don't get nothing but a tie on Father's Day. You're doing something good.
Pair of socks. No, my
you got socks. Oh, I just got
family
ties.
lookout. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But those are all powerful statements, man. And we still have a responsibility, despite how difficult that it is. But with that, we need support. You need to link up with other men that have the same, spiritual goals that you have in mind, so that you all can keep each other accountable, so that you can stay on the course. We have so many women who have been frustrated, with the lack of performance with men, in that, they playing video games today. They're doing this, they're doing that. And a lion's share of the home, right? And
Right.
sometimes even them working and providing for the kid, it's on them. That's
Yeah.
not right. You know, we it's our job to make sure that we're providing financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically. Even then, it's hard to run on a trail, blaze a trail you've never seen before,
Mm-hmm.
and that's tough.
Yeah.
Primarily in Black and brown, families. We may have seen the man working, but
Mm-hmm.
if the man is at home, but then spiritual insight say, I've never done a devotion before. I'm uncomfortable praying publicly. I'm comfortable there. God's not so much concerned about your comfort, but his
Mm.
will being done.
Ooh.
So, but
Yeah.
that's what manhood is all about. It's not that
Right.
a man won't become fearful in situations and circumstances. It's persevering in spite of the fear.
Yes. Come on. Come
Because
on.
I want the overall benefit from those who are connected to me. And
Yes.
we've all talked about before, man, how am I going to do this? How am I going to work this out? Yeah, God's going to provide a way. I still have to face it.
Yeah.
Even in difficult situations. That's what manhood is all about. Look, facing it, but also understand I don't have to face it alone. God is with me. He'll never leave me. He'll never forsake me. And these are assurances we have, but we have to be able to continue to rely on him. I had a young man some years ago was sitting in my office and was talking about, he was having some behavioral issues in school, smart, bright young man. And now I'm in a mentoring capacity with him. But he said, my dad wasn't around. This was going on, that's going on. But then he said, I had to learn how to be a man by watching YouTube videos. I said, what?
Wow.
Well, I mean, that's the only way, I don't really have access to ones. It's my mom, my mom and this. So you got to learn how to be a man by watching YouTube videos. But what if he watched the wrong video of a man behaving or performing it? But that's what happens.
Yeah.
When we leave our young children without direction, or we leave the onus of the burden of rearing on another man.
Right.
Right. So we both been in positions before where, it just seems like, man, when somebody doesn't handle their responsibility, that burden now shifts to you, even when you already have your own responsibility. Right.
Yeah.
So we all have to be cognizant of that, So encouraging men who are not doing, bro, you can do this. Yes. Oh, I know it's hard. Sometimes you got to cry. Sometimes you got to figure it out. The family looking to you for answers and you don't have them all. Lord, please set the direction. Bible indicates there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. So when you don't have the direct answer, seek advisement from other spiritual individuals or individuals who may have expertise in a particular field so that they can give you insight on what move to make. Right. Amen. So, encouragement in that, man.
No, I mean, and I think that's where the importance of the church is,
Yeah.
As you already stated, your mentors, the surrogates that you received, they came from the church.
Yes, sir.
And these are men that understood that responsibility. I had one of the young men come to me after service and just praise me in front of others, for what I thought were just little things, just normal, regular stuff I would just do.
Right.
And he, listed these things that influence and impact I've made in his life. And I brought it to you. I'm like, man, get out of here with all that mess,
You start crying on the parking lot, really?
Yeah, but it was special.
Yeah,
it was special.
That's good.
And it just goes to show sometimes we don't even know the influence and impact we're making on a person's life.
Oh man,
just by being there, just by being present. Let's go get a bite to eat. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Just those little things. I was looking at a illustration of this man who took his boy fishing, and they went fishing, and all of a sudden, things are just being all messed up. They come back, no fish. All right. Mom goes, what happened? And she talks to the dad. The dad said, man, it was a horrible day. The lines got tangled up. I lost my bait. The pole fell into the water. This and that. It was just horrendous. And then when she talked to the boy, how did things go with you? He said, man, I had a great time. I had a chance to spend some time with my dad.
Wow.
Wow. And that's what it's all about. Sometimes we don't even realize how impactful it is just being there. Yeah, you might not have it all. Maybe you don't have college degrees. Maybe you don't have everything to be able to give your children financially and
Sure.
all that.
Sure.
But the most important thing is to be
Time.
there
Yes. Yeah.
and being there for your kids. Being there as that support and that foundation is vital for their growth. And when you don't have it, maybe you can't do it for your own, uh,
Sure.
or you don't even have any children. But brother, you can definitely be an impact maker in someone else's life also.
Invest in the life of somebody else, man.
Yeah.
Because we need it.
Yes.
My preacher, reared me, and then, when I married my wife, we started attending her church, and Minister Douglas Goodman was a great, mentor to me, and even my growth and development as a young minister. One of the things he would be famous for doing is called snatching rugs.
Mm-hmm.
That was the expression he used all the time about accountability. Man, you sitting in his office making excuses, man, he'd snatch that rug. Well, why can't you do it? He would always say it's more than one way to skin a cat. It's more than one. There's other options. Well, you can't work. You can figure out another way. Figure out another way. That ain't good enough. Snatching rugs, snatching rugs. That's what it's going to help you to be able to stand where you're not looking for excuses. Man, when all the excuses are gone, all there is to do is keep pressing forward. Right? And we need men in our lives to call us up in our manhood.
Yeah.
And but that's lost. Man, do what you
Brother,
do.
I think we could keep talking for hours on this topic. We might. We're definitely going to need a part two of this. We're definitely going to need a part two, or something along the same lines of manhood. But if just to kind of bring this all together, the importance of a man, his influence, his importance. Why don't you just share something that you've received positively from your father? Maybe a saying, a thought, an idea, something. From your dad,
Okay.
that can encourage us a little bit.
Yeah, something that my dad mentioned this to me when probably 16, 17 years old. He said, Norm, we were sitting down at his kitchen table, and he said, Norm, I want to tell you this, man. He said, as you grow up, he uses this and that. He said, Norm, you got to learn to be like a wild horse. And, of course, I'm starting laughing. Wild horse? What you talking about? Like a stallion or something, strong. He said, no, I ain't talking about that. He said, in life, people are going to try to shackle you. People are going to try to hold you down. He said, but you got to keep bucking. People are going to try to limit you with label. Every level you go in, I know you getting your education and doing all of that stuff, but people try to tell you, you can't do this. You can't go here. You're not qualified enough. He said, but you got to keep bucking, son. He said, they're going to try to break you. When they break you, man, you limited. You'll be afraid to move. You won't be able to go forward. Man, that's some of the best advice that my father's ever given me, but learned it at 16, 17, is still holding on to it today. And as we know, as I've been able to transcend corporate world, even, in church settings, you will have individuals who will try to label you, to limit you. But we got to keep finding ways to persevere forward with the help of the Lord.
Awesome. Well, that's a good word to conclude on, brother. Keep on bucking, keep on fighting, keep on pressing forward.
Yeah, he's from the country too, by the way.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah.
No, and I think once again, this is an important message to any man that's out there that you're scared. It's scary being a
Hey, man,
father.
it ain't
It's
easy.
scary being a man in this society. But if anything, I could just say to you is, find yourself a support system.
Yes.
Talk to some of the brothers in the church.
Church.
Find yourself a mentor. You don't have to look at YouTube videos to find out what it means to be a man. Talk to somebody.
But watch this YouTube channel though.
Watch this YouTube channel too. And if there's any way we can help, put a comment below, let us know. And matter of fact, give us your best tip for someone else in that same situation also, if you're listening and may not find yourself in that situation. So I'm thankful for this conversation.
Yeah.
Look forward to more conversations like this in the future. And we're thankful for having you on this program today. Any parting thoughts, my brother?
Thank you for joining us, everybody. Stay tuned for upcoming commentary. We're looking forward to continue to build this channel and find positive, be able to project and put out, positive information so we can keep being a light.